Hi guys, Andre here. Before we get started, I just wanted to give a couple of quick shout outs to two podcasts that Shannon and I are very excited about. The first one is Three Spooked Girls.
Hey guys, my name is Tara.
And my name is Jessica, and together we co host the podcast Three Spooked Girls.
If you love the paranormal,
Or murder.
join us every Monday as we tell our listeners about a new spooky tale or true crime case.
We'll have a special drink recipe each episode picked out by me for you to enjoy while we scare the hell out of you.
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever the hell else you listen to podcasts.
Come hang out with us and get your spooky on.
And the second podcast is Dead Time Stories.
Hey guys, I'm Sarah,
And I'm Stephanie
and we're the hosts of
Dead Time Stories.
Dead Time Stories
with a Z.
is a weekly podcast where we tell you stories of ghosts, hauntings, mysteries, conspiracies,
The supernatural, paranormal,
the generally eerie, spooky.
and all around weird.
If you like scary stories, witty banter, and classy broads,
We're your ghouls.
gals.
Some of our stories include Eastern State Penitentiary.
No.
And where is it? Where is
Does it sum up 12? The Gettysburg Dime Museum.
They were like, show starts at 5, Mr. President. He was like, thank you, 5. No, 70. He was like, thank you, 5. Fort Mifflin.
So the Americans burned down their own fort. They were like, "Oh, you British
want this? You want this? Come and get
welcome
it.
to Philly."
And more.
New episodes are posted Thursdays at midnight on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, and Stitcher.
Listen and subscribe, rate and review today.
Again, two amazing podcasts. Go check both of them out. Now, onto the show. Hello.
Hello, Andre.
Hi, Shannon. Welcome back.
It's good to be back.
Episode 15.
That's insane.
It's
That's
5
a
more
lot.
than 10. So,
Yeah, you're right. I remember when I was 15, I was really annoying.
when I was 15, I was a little piece of shit.
Why does that not surprise me?
I wasn't like mean to people and like not that kind of piece of shit, but I loved drama. I was a really like dramatic kid.
Has
So I
things
like
changed, or?
I things have changed. Okay, excuse me. No, but I wouldn't like start things, but I'd love
You'd love
like
to
knowing
soak it in.
more or like meddling or just like putting my ear on the door. Yeah, and I needed to get that tea. I guess I do that now, just not with people like I know. Maybe with celebrities.
I mean, I'm a Gemini, so I'm all for that gossip. I feel bad admitting it, but I love it. I eat it up.
I stand some tea. I need it. Okay. So speaking of tea, that's actually a terrible segue. There's nothing about tea.
Speaking of tea, I want some.
Okay. So Shannon, what are we talking about today? Actually, no, because I think we have slightly different things. So
Yeah,
what
we
are
do.
what are you on about, like vibe wise? What are you talking about today?
You know, I'm not gonna lie, my vibes stay pretty much the same week to week, and my vibes are pretty much like the devil meets something spiritual meets like
Yeah.
someone dying. Like that's where I'm at. Yeah.
Okay. Well, mine's gonna be like portals to hell. That's actually very specific.
Wow.
So
Okay.
that's gonna be mine.
Yeah, we're both kind of dealing with something
Yeah.
dark.
You know what? I think I might as well get started because I want to shock you. So let's see if any of this like works for you, and then you can tell me about yours.
Perfect. I'm excited. Let's go.
Also to all of you who definitely care, I just turned 22. So happy birthday sound effect.
Yes! He's
My birthday
22.
was recently. It was on the 23rd of April. I feel exactly the same I did when I was a young 21. So I don't know what to tell you.
You know what's funny is we're like talking about like remember when we were 15 years old and like for a lot of people like you're like still 15.
I know.
Like that wasn't that long ago.
I know. If you're listening to this and you're 15, it gets better.
Oh my god! It does, but I also want to say like it doesn't. Like life is a roller coaster, guys. Hop on board.
Life is a roller coaster and it's kind of split. Like it gets better in some areas and then it gets, I guess, relatively worse in others. But it all balances out in the end.
Right. Unless you fall through a portal to hell.
Unless you fall through a portal to hell. Wow. Queen of segues, I suck. Speaking of, today I'm going to be talking to you about two different portals. The first one is a portal in Houska Castle. So, what is this place? Houska Castle is a castle in the Czech Republic. Wait, is it still called that? No, it's Czechoslovakia, isn't it?
I am so not down with it. I don't know.
I think it's the Czech
What is
Republic
geography?
now. I think maybe I should have checked this before. I think it used to be Czechoslovakia before the Soviet Union collapsed. We're just gonna say it's a Czech castle. So
I like how you're worried about that and not the like validity of you just casually talking about portals.
Portal to hell, legit. But where is it? We don't know, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So it's a Czech castle. It's big. It's like a cliff top castle. It is medieval architecture, so it's very like Gothic. So this place, right? It was constructed in the 13th century, so like mid 13th century. So it's old. The castle, again, it's in Gothic style. It's about an hour north of Prague, in the Czech Republic. I'm pretty sure it's the Czech Republic. And it's on the top of these like steep rocky cliff, so like when you look at pictures it's literally in the middle of nowhere, and it's thought to be one of the most haunted locations in the world. You ask why? Well, here's why. The castle like seems pretty ordinary on the outside. It doesn't have any like spookiness factor when you look at it from the outside. It's only when you're in the inside that you, according to like people who have visited it, that you get like these scary vibes. Even from the inside, it doesn't look scary because it's technically a tourist destination. So the Czech government tries to keep it pretty clean and tidy and like upkept. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. But they can't contain hell.
Exactly, they can't contain hell, and they can't like keep the vibes away. So those are still there. This is something interesting about the castle. Apparently, if you look closely, you can see that most of the windows in the castle are actually fake. They're just glass panes on like walls. People ask why. Some other history you should know about the castle is that this castle was built with no fortifications, no water source, no kitchen.
What?
And for years it had no occupants. So clearly this wasn't meant as a fortress, nor was it meant as a residence. Okay. Why? Because why would you need that when really all you need is this big ass castle to contain a hole in the ground that leads to hell? Avi.
Oh, that's dark. I love it.
Okay, so back to the location. Again, location is pretty peculiar, right? This place, like I said, it's in a remote area. What I didn't say is that it's surrounded by thick forests, like a swamp. Sandstone mountains are like around this castle. So the location, like by all intents and purposes, has no strategic value, and it's not near any like trading routes. So many people wonder why it's there. And the ancient legend is obviously like, well, it's like the portal to hell happens to be there, and so they had to build a castle there, which sounds very sensible to me. Because hell is a physical place in Earth that you can travel to through a tunnel.
I mean, maybe it is.
I don't know. Like, I'm saying this as kind of a joke, but I don't know. I mean, sounds kind of legit. The folklore around this is basically, again, that it was built over this large hole in the ground that was the gateway to hell, and it's basically fabled. This is like very interesting and very spooky, right? It's fabled that the hole was so deep that no one could see the bottom of it, and so like people used to live around the hole, like in a town, I guess, but like the hole became so problematic that people like moved away, or a bunch of them like got dragged by the hole because apparently creatures came out of the hole to drag people into it, and so eventually like the town all left, or I'm guessing before they left they all like put in their monies to be like, can we build a castle here so like it, it stops dragging people to hell.
Oh,
Yeah,
so they're talking about like an entity.
yeah, entities, plural. So I'm getting ahead of myself. So basically, the folklore around this is that again, there was a big hole in the ground, and no one could see the bottom of this hole. It was large and it was very, very deep. Legend has it that half animal, half human creatures used to crawl out of this pit at night and attack locals and then drag them down into the hole. So there's that. It's believed that the castle was built to keep this evil in, and that's the folklore. Now, what do you think so far?
I really like the imagery of a creature crawling out of a hole and like taking townspeople to his hole, but then like they're like, oh, like we're just gonna like extreme home makeover this hole, and we're gonna give you a new house, and then you won't bug us. And he's just like, all right, like I like my castle, and he didn't bug anyone.
That's good. Okay,
Move this truck.
So again, the castle was built over this whole hole, but more specifically, the castle's chapel was specifically built directly over the diameter of this bottomless pit in order to seal the evil in and keep the demonic creatures from entering our world. So power of Jesus is what's really keeping them out. But even today, over 700 years after this hole has been sealed, people still claim to hear the scratching of creatures from the lower floors at night trying to claw their way to the surface.
Oh my god.
Others claim to hear a chorus of screams coming from beneath the heavy floor. Are you shook?
The tortured souls of hell. Oh my god.
I know but what spooks me about this is that if this is real, it makes hell so much more like closer to home, quite literally, because it's in Earth. It's not in some alternate dimension or whatever. It's like a physical place somewhere under the earth, under us, that you can like walk to or I guess fall into.
Well, maybe it is in another dimension. It's just, the crossover point is on our Earth, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess that would make sense. Yeah. Okay, so this is a very interesting like little story that's part of the folklore of this castle. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, this was illustrated in the movie The Nun, the story that I'm about to tell you. But The Nun didn't say that it was the Houska Castle. I'm pretty sure that The Nun took inspiration from this castle and then used it in its movie. Not the actual location, but like the folklore, like the storyline of the castle. But they just renamed it to the Abbey of St. Carta. That's what it's called in the movie.
Yeah.
But I remember in the movie, like, well, let me tell you the story. So basically, when the construction of this castle began, it said that all of the prisoners in that village who had been sentenced to death were offered like a pardon if they agreed to be lowered by rope into the hole and report back what they saw, because like the people wanted to know what was in there. Like it was so deep. Like if you like threw a light in, I don't know what they would use back then, like a lantern or something, you couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
So they wanted some people to go down there and look. Apparently the first one wasn't out. They were like, we're not doing this anymore. He was tied up and he was lowered into the hole, but a few seconds after he disappeared into the hole, he began screaming. He begged to be pulled back up, and then when they pulled him up to the surface, he looked as if he had aged 30 years in the few seconds that he was in the hole.
What?
Yeah, his hair had turned white and he was extremely wrinkled. He was still screaming when they pulled him to the surface. Apparently, he was so disturbed by what he saw in the hole that he was sent to like an insane asylum and he died 2 days later. Who knows why?
Wait, this is folklore, right? Like, this isn't real?
I mean, it's according to legend.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I just need to be grounded here because my head is all up in the clouds and I'm wigging out.
But basically, in the movie, if I recall correctly, a scene like that happens. Like someone's lowered and then they come back up and they're like all old and stuff. And so when I was like researching this earlier today, I was like, like, oh, that clicks. Like, so they were inspired by that. Interesting. Because in the movie, like basically the abbey, the fake Abbey of St. Carta is also built to keep like a portal from hell, like keep it sealed. Well, really more like inspiration. They just like straight up ripped it off. But
Yeah.
um, but yeah, but I guess like I didn't. I feel like I had heard of this castle that I'm talking to you about right now, like years ago. But I guess when I was watching the movie recently, it never clicked until today. Um, so that's interesting. So multiple like television shows and like ghost hunters, all that kind of stuff have visited the castle. They all conclude that it is haunted. Again, people still hear the scratching of the winged creatures. Oh, I forgot to say they were winged. They had like black wings,
Oh
some
my
of them, the
god.
ones that carried people down to the hole. So apparently they can still hear the scratching of the creatures trying to claw their way to the surface. And phantoms have been seen walking the empty halls of the castle. And this is my favorite part of this article. Like it just like give it like a 180 loop. And also, the Nazis specifically chose Houska Castle in order to harness the powers of hell for themselves.
Okay, but like the whole like Nazis being into the paranormal thing actually has some real roots.
I
Like
mean,
that's
yes,
yeah,
that is
that's
true.
crazy.
I
I
don't
buy it
know
honestly.
if there are like actual records that they were situated at this castle at any point in time. If they were, though,
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised. Like the Czech Republic isn't that far away, but like even if they were, like there's nothing to suggest that they actually like were there to harness the powers of hell. However, literally, what other reason would there be for them to be there if they were actually situated there for a period of time? Again, no strategic value in this castle, no water, no rooms. So maybe if they were there, this article is into something, and indeed they were there only and only because of hell.
Or an orgy in a castle.
So that's what I got on that. Thoughts?
I'm living for it right now. What if the winged creatures, I mean, obviously they're probably demons, but what if they're the Mothman?
What if the Mothman is a demon? Period.
Oh my god. I keep bringing up the Mothman because I still don't believe in him, but I'm trying to make the Mothman fit into my reality. So I'm trying.
I don't know. I think to me, really, the spookiest part is just again how the castle was built, what it lacked, where it was built. It makes no sense. So
Yeah, I mean, I guess my brain goes to true crime, but maybe there was just like some whacked out serial killer who like built this house kind of like how that doctor did. That
mhm.
dude, like maybe it was just like a torture place. Like maybe he threw bodies into the hole or something and like there's no plumbing or anything because like it's just a murder house.
I guess I don't know. Like, were there serial killers in the 13th century?
Oh, there have been serial killers like all throughout time. I think maybe the issue with them being so prominent today is that America has forced capitalism down the throats of so many psychopaths that they just like really want to strike out and make themselves known now, especially with media. But I mean, back then, I'm sure like everyone was killing each other, you know?
Now, what you said. Now that's real spooky. Uh,
Capitalism. It's coming
damn.
for you.
Um. Okay. Well, that's a theory. I mean, yeah. I mean, there's a couple of other uses that I can think of, but I haven't really like fleshed them out very well. So I kind of want to stick with, yeah, like there was something in that hole and they were trying to cover it up, and that's the only reason they built that castle. That's the only reason they built the chapel over the hole specifically,
Hmm.
and like that's the reason why there were no rooms. Like they probably didn't want to incentivize anyone to stay there. Of course, now it's a tourist attraction because people are stupid.
Yeah.
Um, I wouldn't want to go there. I don't think I'd visit it. I think maybe I'll look at it from the outside, but
Andre, we're
yeah,
gonna
people
go
who
with
do that.
pickaxes and we're gonna dig
No,
ourselves into the
fuck
hole.
that. Like people who do that kind of stuff, like, oh, I want to stay in the haunted room in that like one haunted like hotel in LA or whatever, like room 103 or whatever. Like, or people who are like, oh, like what is it, like the Queen Mary like cruise,
Oh
like
yeah.
whatever. I no thanks. Like
You
um
don't poke the bear.
yeah, like some of you might already know this, the ones that are listening, but like I love talking about the paranormal, like learning about it, like watching things about it. But I wouldn't actually want to experience anything about it because I don't know, the fact that I like it so much is because it brings me so much adrenaline. But the reason it brings me adrenaline is because it's so scary. So it's not actually something that I would want to experience in real life.
I just have a natural curiosity, and I think it would be really fun if it was real. I think that would give me something to tap into my lizard brain and just like fight for my life, you know? Okay,
I
no
just
one
think
kill me. Please don't kill me.
we have different definitions of fun.
Yeah, we do. I've actually
um,
mellowed a lot in my old age. I'm less reckless now.
I'm glad. I'm glad. Okay, so the second hole that I wanted to talk about.
Oh,
um,
is it Shia LaBeouf's holes?
is okay. So this isn't necessarily a hole, but apparently this is a place that also contains a portal to hell. So this place is Stoll Cemetery in Kansas, here in our very own United States.
Road trip.
Shannon, are we going?
Yes, we're going. We're going right now. Pack your bags.
So this is a spooky looking cemetery. If you look at photos, it's spooky looking. I think they might actually be trying to make it look spooky because I don't know, tourism and people know that this is supposed to be a portal to hell, whatever. So it's spooky. It's like tucked away in this rural area of Kansas. It's not even like in near any big city in Kansas. It's just like in this like rural, sinister patch of land. Again, it's called Stoll Cemetery. According to this article, it is eerie. It has a quiet atmosphere, which I guess all cemeteries do. So that's not really that special. But so there's many dark legends about this place. And apparently all these legends have earned it the nickname of America's most evil graveyard. I hadn't heard about it before I started doing research for this episode, so I don't know how evil it is. But basically, like, the stories that revolve around it involve a couple of things. There's stories of satanic cults,
Of course.
like meeting there. There's stories of witchcraft being practiced in the cemetery, and there's also reports of shadowy figures carrying out quote-unquote bizarre rituals and human sacrifice by moonlight. So yeah, and of course, supposedly it also has its own doorway to hell. So this place has it all. Now, what's really interesting is that, like, sitting in the middle of the cemetery is this like decrepit, long abandoned church, which looks like shit. Like, it's very like it's not been upkept. It doesn't look like a lot, but the church apparently has for over a century been said to be the actual portal to hell.
Wow.
So if you happen to go in there, you might not come out. The local legend apparently originates in the mid 19th century, when Lucifer himself is said to have used the church to emerge into the cemetery from hell and summon up the restless spirits clinging to it. From that point on, Mr. Lucifer supposedly began to pass through the gate twice a year. Of course, you can guess when. Once on the spring equinox and once on Halloween. And this is so, it's kind of cheesy, but like the story has more to it. So, and over the years, it's been said that Lucifer fathered a child with a witch living in the area.
Yeah, he did.
So, thoughts?
I like it. I like it a lot. Although the only thing I'm struggling with is if there's no hole, how did he emerge? Did he just appear?
Well, I mean, there must be some hole or some door. It's just that this story doesn't have like the specific location where you can find it. Maybe, like, I don't know, someone wants to keep that information hidden so people don't go lurking around, going to hell. Okay, something I have to say about this demon child. So the kid that the devil had with the witch apparently is said to have been born with quote-unquote wolf hair and to have been badly, hideously deformed. The horrific child soon died, and his alleged grave can be seen even today, right beside a twisted old tree that is said to have been a place where they hung suspected witches during those days.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Wow.
a lot, huh? Okay, so this church, right? Apparently it fell into disrepair long ago. Like, the roof collapsed in like the 20s or the 30s or something, and and for some reason, like the cemetery never bothered to fix it. Maybe they didn't have funds, or maybe they didn't care if no one went in the church anymore because they knew there was something in there. But anyway, so this church is like all fucked, but still, according to witnesses, it's claimed to like repel rain, and that despite not having a roof, the interior always remains dry even during intense
Oh
rain.
my gosh.
Yeah, locals have like mostly tore the building down. Like, I think that's good. I don't know. But the old church is said to still be used by Satan, and up until like 20-30 years ago, hundreds of people would still show up at midnight on the spring equinox or on Halloween in the hopes of getting like a glimpse of the devil. I don't know. And that caused a lot of rowdiness. And so like since then the cemetery has been off limits to the public, but there's still like sightings, numerous sightings of things going on at the church, like floating lights. People see orbs, obviously, classic orbs, fleeting shadowy figures that appear and disappear into thin air, and rings of flame that seem to spontaneously form out of nowhere with no discernible material that they could be burning. That they could be burning from. So what the heck's going on there? Lastly, one of the like spookiest stories surrounding this cemetery, and one that I found really interesting, was that when Pope John Paul II visited Colorado in 1983, he supposedly, I guess he was traveling from Rome to somewhere to Kansas, and I guess in order to do that he had to travel through Colorado. So when he visited Colorado, oh, I'm sorry, he was traveling to Colorado and he had to pass Kansas. So when he was going there back in 1983, he supposedly had his private plane take a completely different route so as to fly like all the way around the cemetery, because it had like so much evil that he wanted to like avoid flying over
Oh my
it.
god.
I know.
So
So
extra.
but yeah, that's what I got.
Isn't
Thoughts.
his hat supposed to protect him from evil?
I think so. I don't know. Maybe
Does
he
he not wear
knows
it while
like
flying?
maybe the gateway to hell is like a little too much for him, and so he knew that it wouldn't be enough.
You know what I like about your two cases is that they directly like mirror each other in a way of like there's this hole to hell, so they built a castle around it, but there's this hole to hell in Kansas and they tore like this church down for some reason.
Well, rather, like if I understand correctly, like it became dilapidated just like through time, and it like fell into disrepair because it wasn't maintained. And so like the roof collapsed, and now the church like looks like shit. And the like cemetery certainly didn't bother to fix it. So now like criminals, I don't know, like delinquents have like torn like the building down more and more. But yeah.
Is that like a compliment to
I
Lucifer,
don't
or is that like
know.
a middle finger to Lucifer?
I
Because
think
he is evil.
I think the locals, I don't know. I think like delinquents just like see like a torn down building and they're like, oh, why can't we get out of it? Or maybe kids go and do like urban exploration.
Yeah.
But the point is that you're right that like these buildings, specifically like religious buildings, right? Because in the Czech Republic it was the chapel of the castle, and in Kansas it was the church of the cemetery. Apparently, like both of these buildings were built like specifically on top of these gates to keep like the gates sealed. So you're right. Yeah.
Mhm. I like it. I like both. I think the second one was interesting because there were so many examples of like stuff, like witches and this little demon antichrist baby
Yeah.
with fur on it. That's all very fascinating. But I especially like the first one. I think the first one had an aesthetic of like, and especially because it is kind of dealing with dimensions in my mind of like, if someone comes up from a rope and they've aged like 20-30 years, time moves differently, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Down
Oh my
there.
god, I hadn't thought about that. I thought like maybe some demon like came up to his face and was like, I'm gonna age you. Ha ha ha.
Oh, that's possible too, like suck out the youth.
Yeah.
Use a witch.
Yeah, suck out the youth like the witch. But maybe, oh my god, that's so much scarier. Like maybe he actually was down in that hole for 30 years, but like in real time it was like a couple
Right.
seconds, and he was actually screaming for 30 years straight.
Yeah, because he was so terrified of what he saw.
Wow, it's fucked up.
Or
Shannon.
I don't know, maybe he was tortured. I don't know. How would he stay on the rope that long? Maybe they were just poking him with like iron prods.
I don't
You're like, hey, a visitor.
know. Yeah, no, that part scared me.
Pinata.
Yeah, that part spooked me for sure.
This was a suggestion, right? One of those was a
Yes, yes,
suggestion.
yes. Like talking about the Houska Castle, the first one was a suggestion from one of our listeners.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, listeners.
Mhm.
I really thoroughly enjoyed that.
Tell me what you got.
Oh my god. Are you ready for this? Because, for one, like, this is actually a really common one. I think you might have heard
Okay.
about this, or at least read about it. And it's funny I'm talking about it because I'm in a house of someone who loves dogs.
Ooh, okay.
She walks in here. She better cover her ears.
Okay, I don't know what you're talking about, so I'm actually like, I have no idea.
All right, well, my story takes place in West Dumbartonshire. Dumbartonshire? Yeah, we'll say that. Scotland. It is called the Overton Bridge. And yeah, so
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I do know some about
you've
it.
heard of
Yeah,
this?
go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay, so this bridge was completed in 1895 by a landscape architect named H.E. Milner. So, since 2005, there have been reports of dogs falling or leaping from the bridge.
Mm.
And reports put it around 300 to 600 have leaped from the bridge. Maybe only about 50 have died from it because it's actually not that high.
Uh-huh.
But, and I think a lot of people like to leave out, like, oh, it wasn't that many that died. But I mean, it's a substantial amount. There's a lot of dog death happening here.
Mhm.
Sorry, dogs. Anyway, so some of them are injured, just break a leg or something, but there are rocks at the bottom. So there's a house on the property where the bridge is kind of leading to. So it's like the bridge and then like a couple of, I don't want to say miles, but like a lot of land until you get to this like nice little manor.
Uh-huh.
And it's called Overton House. And so the people who live there, Bob and Melissa Hill, they actually like talk about the house or the bridge and the house.
Hmm.
And so in the New York Times, they said that in the past 17 years, they've seen dogs grow agitated, jump up, and fall off the bridge. Also, it's just occurring to me that this is about dogs jumping to their deaths,
Yeah.
and the dogs have been barking a lot. Like, is this like a sign?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh my god, they know what's up. Anyway, so Bob Hill, the guy who lives there with his wife, he's a pastor. He's actually from Texas, which is kind of cool. Like, how'd you end up in Scotland, Bob? Anyway, and and while he believes that Overton House, the grounds around it have a very spiritual quality, he does believe that the dogs are simply attracted to the scent of an animal. And that's one of the explanations that comes up a lot. I think people tend to dismiss any other reason for it because they think that it is the scent of an animal. But there are quite a few explanations for it, and some of them are supernatural. And I don't think that we've ever actually been able to pin down which one it is, which is why I'm talking about it. Like,
Still though, like it's definitely not the scent of an animal. Like there could be a scent of an animal anywhere on that like trail. Why would they do that specifically on the bridge? Also, like, is it the same
yeah.
animal all the time? Like, if so, how long has that animal been there? Like, does the animal never move? Is the animal a carcass? Like, if it's a carcass, then wouldn't it like rot and eventually the dogs wouldn't smell it? But having these dogs be jumping to the deaths for like years.
Yeah, years. And they think it's mink. I think mink is the one that they say most often, but I don't really buy it, and there are some rebuttals for that I'll talk about later.
Mm-hmm.
But so, I mean, just in general, like, this doesn't really need a supernatural explanation to be scary, because by nature, like, your dog suddenly jumping off a bridge is pretty scary. Like,
Yeah.
that sucks. So I do want to kind of segue into a kind of subplot of this story, and this is where it gets pretty dark. And normally I would stray from true crime in our podcast, especially. Like, I don't mind listening to true crime podcasts or watching true crime stuff. Like, I do enjoy that a lot. But the reason I don't want to talk about it is because it's too much. It's too depressing. It's too, oftentimes they aren't very respectful towards the victims. Anyway, so there's a lot of reasons, but today I'm talking about true crime because I think that it does kind of apply to this, and I think that it does kind of have a little bit of a supernatural edge. Don't quote me on that.
Okay.
I don't know. Decide for yourself. So with that being said, In October 1994, a man threw his 2-year-old son off the bridge because he thought the child was an incarnation of the devil.
Oh my
This-
god, when? What year? What year?
1994.
Okay.
This actually happened. So the man's name is Kevin Moy. Okay. So the Moy was certain that the devil had marked the baby boy. He said that on the forehead there was a birthmark and that he was to blame for the Gulf War, and he feared that the child would end the world with a deadly virus, and Moy genuinely believed that he was saving the world by killing him.
Oh my god. I don't want to say I'm conflicted because I mean it was a fucking baby, but
Yeah.
man, I've
That's what's
watched
so
The
rough.
Omen 1, 2,
Oh
and
my
3. Okay.
Yeah. It's rough because it's like, oh my god, this is like a very serious sign of mental illness for one. Like, it's your child, like, and that's really sad, to suffer from those intrusive thoughts, that it actually causes you to like act on them. It's a
I
really
mean,
tragic thing.
I mean,
And that's
yes, but again, I like
like, you've seen The Omen.
right, like that sounds like super duper fucked up, but like we are on this podcast for a reason, so I must ask the obvious
Right.
question: what if this was?
Right. That's why I had to bring it up. It's because it happened in such a specific place that the people who live there now say like the grounds feel kind of spiritual, like they feel kind of haunted. People have said that they've seen stuff on the grounds, not just on the bridge. And so like that's a factor. And what I think about is like, maybe if we're not talking about haunting in the strictest sense, maybe we're talking about places having an energy that makes you feel sad just because of all the history there. It's not really like a ghost, but it's a feeling. Maybe that can leave a mark on our world in some way we don't understand, and maybe that's what he felt in that moment. But
Yeah, I like that.
unfortunately with this, we'll just never know. Like, anyway, I guess I'll just come back to that because it's a lot to unpack. But so after he did the deed, he was actually with his wife when they were walking on this bridge. So he's with the wife and the child. And after he dropped the baby, because it was kind of like anyway, after he dropped the baby, he attempted to jump off the bridge, and his wife dragged him back. She was screaming.
Oh my god.
He was later taken to a home while he was like awaiting court, I think, something like that, and he attempted suicide by slitting his wrists. He was found not guilty by reason of insanity and was detained in a state hospital. Which,
Also,
honestly,
like
yeah.
completely different topic, and I don't know if we can really talk about it without going on like a whole hour segue, but like your thoughts on that, like on crazy people being like not given prison time but rather like put into mental asylum for doing horrible things.
My thoughts on that?
Yeah, if you can give me like the short on that.
I think that he genuinely needed help. I think that because he showed remorse, I think that he knew that he was suffering from some kind of mental illness. And because when the article I was reading, he said like the moment he saw the baby when it was born, he felt that conflicting feeling of like, I feel like this baby's evil, but I shouldn't feel that way. Like, he knew that something was wrong in his mind.
Interesting.
And
Okay, well that makes me sad to think that like.
Yeah, this is why I don't like talking about true crime. It's a lot.
But it also makes me think, okay, well then doesn't that show that he was like quite conscious of what he was doing? Like, ergo, why not give him prison time? Like, why not treat him as
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah. I don't know.
Just wanted to put that in there. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah, so I mean, this child did not deserve this. I really don't think it was the child of a devil or that it was marked. Like, that's not. Anyway.
Do you think that is a thing? Do you think that is a thing? Like, do you think that there's ever been do you think there's ever been a real life omen, basically? Do you think the devil does that? And why would he? Couldn't he just come himself, be like, fuck the world?
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I don't know, because that's kind of weird. I feel like that draws back into like, I don't know if it ties into religion, because if we say that we believe that, doesn't that by nature mean that we also believe that God can do miracles or something?
No, Miss Shannon. You told me when I when I said like this must have been like the first episode actually. I was like, oh, like I believe in exorcisms, like therefore I must
Oh,
like believe in Christianity
yeah,
because
yeah,
like
yeah,
it's
you're
all
right.
attached and we're like, oh, but like different cultures have exorcisms. What if like it's not the devil, it's just like evil, and we
Okay.
just like picture it differently than other cultures picture it.
Well, let's put an image in our mind now for future episodes. Let's call, instead of like the devil doing stuff, let's just say like the big evil Velociraptor. Like, is he sending out omens? And I don't think that he is. I don't have anything to back this up. I think maybe because I haven't really heard of any omens before. Like, I think this is like the first one that's like, but it's very heavily rooted in like mental
Yeah.
illness and stuff. But I don't know. Do you believe in omens?
No. Again, I think if the devil really wanted to like fuck the world up, he could just come do it himself. I mean, if anything, it's in the Bible um like the devil's gonna like fuck up things so badly that like the rapture is gonna happen. Like, why
Mm,
would he need a kid? I guess the Antichrist is supposed to be like some
hmm
entity that is not the devil doing the work for the devil. But I don't know if I believe in the Antichrist. Also, I think the devil could just come and like fuck shit up if he really wanted to. He doesn't need like an envoy, you know.
You don't believe in the little furry mutant baby that he had with the witch?
Well, again, like this dude was deformed and like couldn't like
He
speak or
was a
move.
failed
Yeah,
antichrist.
I think it was a failed antichrist. Or rather, I think like when, because we've heard this before, that the devil like fucks witches to have like kids with them.
Hmm.
I don't think that like every time the devil does that, he's trying to create antichrist. I think maybe he just like likes having babies with witches just cause I don't know, or maybe like he forgets to like use protection. I don't know.
Does the devil, does he need protection? I feel like his semen probably melts stuff.
My God.
Okay, so there is a ghost that is supposedly by lore attached to the grounds. So this is the widow of the first Baron Overton. So, you know, the people who originally lived in the house.
Hmm.
So she's called the White Lady of Overton, you know, may as well go with that theme.
Hmm.
So after mourning her husband for 30 years and dying herself, she supposedly haunts the bridge, the home, and the grounds.
That's crazy.
Um, she's been
30
sighted
years.
in the windows of the house, and supposedly she's been seen standing at the bridge. So, author of the book The Baron of Rainbow Bridge, Overton's Death, Leaping Dog Mystery, Unraveled by Paul Owens. Owens claims that people who would have been on the bridge, or who have been on the bridge, suddenly experience an overwhelming sense of depression, when prior to that they were just fine. And Owens himself has been there, and he's had a weird experience. He said that he felt a phantom finger jab him in the back twice while he stood on the bridge, almost as though it was like trying to get him to jump.
Mm,
And
damn.
so, like, sorry, were you gonna say something? Okay, so um, kind of like what he said about the overwhelming sense of depression. That's kind of what I meant earlier about like maybe the guy could have possibly fought this feeling or sensation of his child being evil off, but because of the bridge and because the ghost lady is there constantly mourning her husband for like ever,
Hmm.
maybe that depression kind of leaks into you when you're standing there. But I don't know. I don't really believe that at all.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's just really unfortunate.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is it a ghost? Is it something evil? Like, why are the dogs jumping? I don't know. But
Um, Go ahead. Go ahead.
I guess I can just jump into the rational explanations unless you have a theory of your own.
I think like the first thing that came to mind was like a lake spirit, and that's a thing that like the Irish and the Scottish talk about. Like that's part of their like cultural folklore. We don't have lake spirits here. That's not like an idea that I'm very familiar with, but I don't know if that's like a thing over there. Spirits that are like specifically tied to bodies of water. I mean, I guess they have that in Japan too. So that's the first thing I thought of. Like
Hmm.
how, like what, like whose spirit that is specifically, I don't know. How it got there in the first place, I don't know. Is anyone that commits suicide by jumping into a river a spirit lake? I don't think so, otherwise it would be like thousands. So I don't know if it is a lake spirit, like why specifically that person's like spirit, whoever the person is. But that makes sense to me. I don't think it's the devil. I feel like I don't know. It's not
I
violent enough. Go
I
ahead.
also should have mentioned that there's no water. It's just rocks down there.
Ooh, I
Sorry.
thought it was like a little stream. Okay, well, fuck lake or river spirits or whatever. Um,
It's a bridge spirit.
it's a bridge. Oh, it's a troll. It's a troll. It's a troll. It's
It's
a
a
little troll that
troll.
lives under the bridge, and it's invisible to the human eye. But you know how dogs are very, like they perceive everything. So yeah, it's that. It's a troll. I don't know. I'm kind of dry. I'm as dry as these rocks under the bridge as far as
Oh my
theories on
god.
this one. So keep going.
Okay. Okay, so one of the theories that I like, which kind of makes sense to me, um, well, for one, most dogs aren't that tall, you know? Like your biggest dog can see probably like 5 feet, maybe? Like a big dog. Is 5 feet right? That seems too high. I don't know.
5 feet
Basically,
for a dog?
I've
Like
seen some
standing
big
up, you mean?
dogs. Like on all fours.
On all fours, 5 feet? No, dude. Like this must be
I
one big ass dog.
I don't do numbers.
I like. I guess a large dog. Yeah, standing up. But we're talking about. Yeah, we're talking about large
Yeah.
dogs. Yeah,
So all fours. So yeah, like their line of sight isn't as high as ours. So
right.
canine psychologist David Sands, he said that while there's not a definitive answer for these dog deaths, the surrounding foliage around the bridge, it kind of masks the drop on the other side of the bridge. So for a smaller dog, if they're at that level, what they see, it looks like a single plane of land. So they don't know that there's a drop at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good, but I don't believe it at all. I feel like that like circumstance where like nature, like maybe the foliage in some places makes it like confusing for dogs or whatever. I'm sure that happens in millions of other places around the world, but dogs aren't killing themselves over there. So next.
Thank you, next. Many believe that it is the strong mink scent coming down from the below. You know, the minks are like mating or being gross, and the dogs smell it, and it has been proven that dogs are very attracted to that smell. And so
Okay.
the dog overestimates and jumps for the mink. However, a local hunter who has lived there his entire life, over 50 years, has said, "There is no mink around here. I can tell you that with absolute certainty."
I love that. I mean, or rather, I mink. Um, yeah, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and that coupled with the Bill, is that his name? Bob Hill, the guy who lives at Overton right now. He kind of said like, "Oh, it's probably the mink," but also like, "Yeah, I'm sensing some vibes here." Like that. I'm just like, "Well, you sense vibes, man. Like you can't." I don't know. And also, why haven't they found this miraculous mink and brought it to justice? You know?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and it's really interesting when people talk about like their experiences with their dogs jumping, because some people have come forward and said it's really weird. It's like the dog suddenly stops, it changes its behavior completely, and makes a straight beeline, runs and leaps off the freaking bridge. Like it's not.
I can totally picture like me being there with my dog and how terrifying that would be, and I can also like picture me trying to tell that to someone and them not like picturing that in their mind, right? And like really minimizing the horror of it.
Yeah,
And I think that's what these people who give very rational explanations to this phenomenon do. I think that you really don't like get to say it's just minks unless you actually experience how terrifying it must be for everything to be perfectly normal and all of a sudden your dog just pauses and then runs to its death like that. You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like,
And like you can hear them like make their sad dog noises as they hit the ground. Like it's a pretty serious thing.
when did you
And
say dogs started jumping off this bridge? Is there like a year, like a timeline?
I don't think there's necessarily a year it started, but there's definitely a year that people started reporting it to like news media, and that was like 2005. But the bridge
2005.
itself has existed since 1895.
Okay, what if it's the baby ghost?
Oh, don't say that.
I mean, I'm just trying to think of like an explanations and like nothing's coming up. But that, right? Like you said, that was in the mid 90s, so that makes
Yeah.
sense. Like there's a ghost that's attached to that place, because it died a horrible death. Usually, like ghosts or spirits that died horrible deaths, so they can't pass. And maybe like I don't know, like dogs like babies. Maybe the baby is like luring the dogs. I don't know
Oh,
if the baby like wants the dogs to die, but
yeah.
whatever it is, like lures them, and whether accidentally or purposefully, these dogs die.
Hmm. It's possible. I think I am more prone to believe that there's some kind of dark energy there that's making people and dogs feel like killing themselves or others. Like that's what I get. And that could tie back to the Lady of Overton, the white lady or whatever, but I don't know.
It
Because
could,
that intense urge.
or it could be because like like the baby, yeah, but it doesn't make sense. Like it wouldn't be dark energy if it's just a baby, but it would make sense that it's dark energy if the baby also happened to be the son of Satan.
Oh my
So
god!
I had to say it.
So dark!
I mean, listen, I watched enough movies where like the child is like evil and like no one believes like the parent, and the parent is conflicted because like child services is on his ass, and like but he knows it actually is Satan, and the movie ends with like the child like surviving because some person like rescued the kid, and the parent like that was literally like The Prodigy, the movie that I saw recently, The Prodigy. That was literally it. Like the kid was basically like Satan, and the mom was like, I know you're Satan, but no one else believed her, and she tried to kill him, but before she could, she got shot by someone, like a neighbor, and the neighbor rescues the kid, and the kid is like, I'm just a helpless kid, and then grows up and is still Satan. So there's that.
It's just, if I had a Satan baby, I'd love my Satan baby. No one's gonna
No,
touch my
you
Satan
wouldn't.
baby.
No, you
But it's
wouldn't.
not up to me. Satan's probably more powerful than me. What am I gonna do? Stop him from doing Satan things? What am I? I got nothing. I'll make him his eggs. I'll make him some waffles. I don't
think I can.
know.
I think I can settle for the White Lady of Overton, but
Okay.
I will not discount the possibility of demon babies. So there's that.
Oh, is that what you're gonna be remembered for? Is that your tagline? I will not discount demon babies.
Demon babies matter.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
so that was my case. That was the Bridge of Overton. Overton Bridge.
I like it. It's spooky. It's interesting. It left me with a couple of questions. We didn't have a really strong conclusion to it, so that makes me think that there might be
What
more
if
to the
it's
story.
what if it's a hole to hell?
What if it's a hole to hell and dogs just stand hell because their daddy is waiting for them there? And their daddy would be Cerberus, the three-headed dog.
All dogs go to heaven, but actually they don't. They all want to go to
They
hell.
don't. Yeah. That's funny.
Oh man.
Yeah. Okay. I heard about that bridge before you talked about it.
Yeah, there's a lot. Like that's what's so interesting to me is it's not like a few. It's hundreds of dogs have jumped.
It's a lot. It reminded me of the like suicide bridge in South Pasadena, or Pasadena rather. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No, I don't think so.
It's really close to where we live. It's in the LA area. And I was walking it. I walked it with my boyfriend like must have been like half a year ago, because like he lives in the area, and he wanted to show it to me, and I think he didn't tell me that was it until we got there, and then I was like we're already here, like might as well like walk it. Clearly I was a different person back then, because today I would have been like, nope, I'm good. But nothing spooky happened, but still, like, it's interesting that that's a thing, like, and I know that's not the only one. Like there's the suicide bridge that I just talked about, and then there's your suicide bridge for dogs in the
Golden
UK.
Gate.
And then I'm sure there's other bridges around the world. I'm sure there are. So
Yeah.
maybe there's just something to bridges. I don't know. Maybe it is trolls. Hell.
I mean, we can get real mystical and be like, well, maybe it's fairies because fairies like in between places, and what's more in between than a bridge that gets you from point A to point B?
Agreed. Fucking fairies. Fairies could be evil. That's a thing. I saw that on a movie once. So they're not all Tinkerbell, you know.
Oh, like the Tooth Fairy? Have you seen
yeah.
that movie?
Yeah, isn't it like a horror movie? Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I've heard about it. It's basically like the tooth fairy's evil. Yeah.
What a
Maybe I'll
time
watch
we
that
have
tonight. Okay.
here.
Actually, fun way to end the podcast. Do you have a horror movie recommendation? And it doesn't matter when it's from for the listeners.
Oh yeah. I mean, I feel like everything I like, everyone's probably already seen though. That's my only issue.
Well, I mean, give it to me. What is it?
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't say Scream is iconic. Iconic.
Yes.
Cabin in the Woods, one of my favorites. I'm a Buffy fan. What can I say? And then Nightmare on Elm Street. It's an 80s, but a Grady's.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I need to kill myself. Where's a bridge? Hereditary, obviously, traumatizing.
Yeah, to anyone who hasn't watched it, that's
Oh,
like
and Get
Maybe a
Out.
classic.
If you haven't seen Get Out yet, Get Out.
Get Out. Yeah, literally Get Out if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Us, well, I know that we like talked about it. You finally saw it, right? You saw it eventually?
No, I haven't. There's like
You haven't
measles
seen
at
it?
our
Well,
movie theater.
you have to see it. It's pretty good. I don't think Get Out might have been better. But anyway, let's see what I have. This is more like indie stuff. Green Room is really good. Check it out. It's like on Netflix. It's not like paranormal horror, but it's still like very, very scary. There was another movie I saw recently. I don't remember the name. Hush is also another movie that was really, really good.
I've seen
It's
that on
like
Netflix.
a
I don't think I've actually seen the movie though.
yeah, it's like a psychological thriller. It's really good.
Ooh, the Babadook.
The Babadook. But yeah, I feel like most people must have seen that one by now. It's a classic, and if you haven't, you have to see it. But yeah, interesting. Okay, we'll think of more recommendations for next week. Everyone, thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to our 15th episode. You can find us on Twitter at Talk Scary, and you can also find us and download our episodes on any podcast listening platform. Again, we are everywhere on Google Play, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher. So give us a listen. Give us a review wherever you want to drop it. Subscribe to our RSS feed anywhere. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud. And if you have any suggestions for next week's episode, drop us a DM or a reply tweet on Twitter at TalkScary. And yeah, we'd love to receive new ideas. So, Shannon, do you have anything?
Be safe out there, guys. Make good choices.
Yeah, make good choices. Don't drive at night if you're sleepy. Don't eat any large meals before bedtime. The Mothman is real, and we will see you all next week. Good night.
Goodbye.